No one thought he was capable of changing his life this way, but he did, and it blew everyone away. Elmer Alvarez had gotten very lucky, but many people felt that he threw it all away without giving it a second thought. But Alvarez had made up his mind. He'd spend the rest of his life paying for what he'd done, and it was all because of a check he found for $10,000. Alvarez hadn't always been this lucky. Through a series of horrible situations, he became homeless, but he never lost his determination, and there was something else that Alvarez didn't lose. The streets might have been mean, but he had a moral compass that no one could tear down. He figured that there was no point in being cruel to others simply because life had been so mean to him, but his kind heart was about to be put through the ringer. Alvarez knew that Thanksgiving was just 2 weeks away. For him, this was the most difficult part of the year. He was always looking in from the outside. Everyone was preparing for the holidays, which reminded him of what he'd lost. His stomach would ache every time he saw an advertisement for a delicious holiday meal. He was starving. But this year, everything was going to change, and he had one woman to thank for that. There was nothing that Roberta Hoskey couldn't do. She was an independent woman and in charge of a real estate school in New Haven. And as a realtor, Hoskey had found forever homes for countless families over the years. She'd built an empire throughout New Haven, and she'd done it all on her own. But this powerful mogul hadn't always had the easiest life in the world. Hoskey could relate to Alvarez's situation. She'd been homeless too at one point. For years, Hoskey had tried to make ends meet. Then one day she was out on the streets, and she had no one to turn to. This was a dark time for Hoskey, and she hoped that she'd never have to experience it again. Then, out of the blue, she found the motivation she needed. Hoskey knew she had to change her life, so she decided to enroll at a community college. This was the stepping stone that led to her becoming a business force to be reckoned with. But her heart always went out to the homeless. She created a nonprofit organization called the Outreach Foundation, which helped families with low income find affordable homes. But then she found herself battling against time itself. Thanksgiving was only 2 weeks away, and Hoskey had a humongous list of things to do. To make things worse, her schedule was more jam-packed than it had ever been. She raced across New Haven, attempting to finish everything on her list of things to do. But as she struggled to get through each task, she dropped something very valuable. It was a chilly morning. Alvarez had just woken up, and he was stretching on a park bench when he saw something flying in the wind. It was a piece of paper, which he grabbed. When he took a look at it, he was stunned. It was a $10,000 check. Then he saw who it was made out to, and he couldn't help but feel bad for the person who lost it. But the breezy winter pushed those feelings away. He needed shelter, so he started looking for a place to crash. He went to the closest internet cafe, used the few dimes he had in his pocket, and started doing research. Eventually, he found the real estate company and decided to give them a ring. As he told her about what he was going through, the person on the other end of the line was shocked. She couldn't believe what the man was telling her. A meeting was immediately arranged. Alvarez might not have realized it, but his life was about to change. Alvarez walked into the building, but there were some hesitations as he held the check in his hand. The paper itself was lightweight, but to him it weighed a ton. His inner voice told him to reconsider. All he needed to do was walk away. But in his heart, he knew he had to go through with this. So as he walked inside the real estate company, he managed to do the one thing with that $10,000 check that no one would have imagined he'd do. Hoskey was ecstatic to welcome Alvarez. During their phone conversation, he'd told her that he found something very valuable that she'd want back. She gave Alvarez a huge hug and thanked him for giving her back the check. He told her that doing the right thing was a no-brainer for him. And while he assured her that he didn't want anything in return, Hoskey came up with a special way to thank him. Hoskey and Alvarez spent time talking. She learned more about his life as a homeless person. This made his action even more incredible. After all, he could have used that $10,000 to get himself out of a rut. But instead, he decided to return the check to her because it was the right thing to do. There was no way that Hoskey wasn't going to reward him for that. Hoskey told Alvarez that she was going to send him somewhere where he could improve his English. She also enrolled him in her real estate school for free. And if that weren't enough, she also set up an interview for Alvarez with one of her business partners. So as soon as he was done studying and earned his real estate license, he'd have a job. Alvarez was overwhelmed, but Hoskey still had one more thing she wanted to do. Hosky knew what being homeless felt like, so she gave Alvarez the most incredible gift ever. She told him that she was going to pay his rent for the following 6 months. This meant that he wouldn't have to spend this winter freezing outside. Alvarez was so touched by her kindness that he started to cry. He couldn't believe that anyone could be so generous. But nothing this good came without certain stipulations, and Hosky had one. Hosky asked Alvarez to pay it forward. That was the only form of repayment that she expected, and she knew that he was up to the task. He proved that to her when he returned the check. Alvarez was beyond grateful to Hosky. Thanks to her, he now had a second chance, and he couldn't wait to start living again. "I'm going for it," he told Fox News, and we're looking forward to seeing what this kind soul is going to achieve in the near future.